the industry has not rolled out products that are particularly user-friendly for the entrepreneurs. You have to have a PhD on staff. We do. You know, you have to have specialists to use the software. It's, you know, it doesn't work on a Mac. I think that there is a dumbing down, or, and I don't know what the right word would be, an application process that could be added to software to bring, you know, what I'm sure are very, very complicated tools that we have in our office to make them more readily available for people in the field. I agree wholeheartedly. The wind industry.
Prefer not to call it dumbing down.
Yeah, no, I got that. I remembered you were sitting next to me. I have to do that when you're not around. No, but it is. It's the, you know, the tools that we use are extremely complex, but the results are crucial for people trying to do this on their own, and they don't have access to it. So yeah, if you know, for people who can help bridge the gap between what the PhDs can understand with the current tools and what they might figure out while standing in a field, you know, we deal with partners all the time who will call and say, I'm in this coordinate, and it's, you know, it's windy, the trees all blow a certain direction, you know, there's not a bat to be found. It's a fantastic site. Right. But what they don't know is that they're in a FAA radar zone. They don't know that there's a NORAD fixture, you know, 15 miles away, which actually makes that not a viable site forever. Those tools aren't available to people just standing out there, and if they were, it would have a tremendous benefit to the industry. We're spending a lot of time trying to put them together, but it's not out there yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to throw a wet blanket on it. It's a very, very capital-intensive industry. That's one of the reasons it is extremely, extremely capital-intensive. It takes a big balance sheet. So certainly these scientific measuring, it's the same thing for offshore wind in terms of the geotech and geophysical analysis of the subsurface conditions. There's an awful lot of software, and there's room for an awful lot of intellectual capital there. But to put it all together and put it into a viable product in terms of a financeable product for, you know, bringing a project to financial close, it's extremely expensive, and it is, I think, it's a bit of a tough slog for a small entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'll just jump into that point. I mean, we're a perfect case study for that, because we developed, as I said before, a turbine hardware and software, and so we have a lot of faith in both products, and we've got a lot of traction with both products, but at the end of the day, it's just very expensive with compressed margins and a lot of competition to build a manufacturing business in New York State. Whereas on the software side of things, again, we saw a huge gap in the market, super high margins, you know, low operating costs. And so while we love both businesses, you know, and we were pursuing the turbine business just in a lighter fashion, more from a licensing standpoint, as opposed to getting in there and actually building our own manufacturing facility. But at the end of the day, we do believe that there's a tremendous opportunity for small wind turbines. So we think that there'll be, you know, many, many thousands, or tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of turbines sold. And we think we have, you know, a top design to participate in that growth. But, you know, in terms of being capital efficient and getting from 8 employees to 80 employees, we have to make the smart decision. And, you know, in New York State, it's definitely to go, you know, with the lighter strategy.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting what the gentlemen are saying regarding some of the software and diagnostic for small, medium scale wind. I think if you get that cheap enough, I think there's probably some interesting niches there. But for big wind turbine manufacturing, I don't see any reason why it would be any different than what we see in other industries, you know, combustion turbines and so forth, where there's really only a handful of companies and it's internationally traded. And you see that happening in the wind industry right now. It's hard to imagine why you would have, you know, 50 companies competing at a large scale. There's going to be a process of M&A there, just like in any other. But at the small scale, I think it's really interesting. That's an area I don't know as well. I think if you can get the costs down for the diagnostics, so you can get interested parties developing smaller parcels of land and so forth, I think that could unlock a lot of acreage that hasn't been thought of before. But as far as, you know, having, you know, major manufacturing associated with it, it's going to be tough.